This is a summary of Chapter 2 of this stupid expensive book, all pictures included. And so the 13 primes have been created and they realize that they were made to defeat Unicron, but they hardly yet even know themselves and their powers. At least though, the Covenant of Primus tells them about Primus and Unicron's battles against one another. The primes learn about themselves and figure out that they can categorize themselves into 3 groups. The warriors were Prima, Vector, Megatronus, Onyx, and Amalgamus. The strategists, Alpha Trion, Quintus, Leech Maximo, and Micronus. The free agents, those who can fight but have other abilities for subtle warfare. Alchemists, Solus, Nexus, and 13. The primes know they will only have one shot to save the universe from Unicron, and they need to be ready. Surprise and training are what they need. Solus creates a virtual copy of Unicron and a holosuite where they can practice against him like a game. They exhausted themselves doing this until they realize Unicron is a god essentially and cannot be killed. They are also afraid that killing Unicron might have meant killing Primus as well. They wonder then if they can somehow force Unicron into the same hibernating state as Primus. It is also thought they should do this before Unicron thinks of creating his own dark primes, but Micronus believes Unicron would never share his power with lesser beings. During their time together, Megatronus and Prima argue a lot because they are so distant in spirit. Megatronus is the closest in nature to Unicron, understanding him better than he would like to. Many primes don't like him except for a few like Onyx, Maximo, and Alchemist, but Solus is extra kind to him. She gives him the first set of Dark Energon skins, which will protect them from the effects of Unicron's blood. After some discussion, Solus also agrees to craft the incredible powerful gun, the Requiem blaster, which draws power from suns to fire. Everyone else was unsure about giving Megatronus a weapon powerful enough to destroy them all, but Solus trusts him and makes it for him. Her trust and kindness overwhelm Megatronus with happiness, and he falls in love with her. He feels so special that it brings out Megatronus' sweet side, but Maximo is jealous to not get any attention. Solus crafts shields and weapons designed to prepare them against the attacks Unicron used on Primus in the past. One sword is called Cyber Caliber, made for Nexus Prime. Solus takes care to talk to everyone and try to design perfect weapons for them. Micronus Prime, who becomes a close friend of hers, rides on her shoulder and lends her some of his energy to power her hammer strikes. They work on a battle plan based on their 3 different groups. Vector Prime also teleports them into regions of space so they can practice dodging in an asteroid belt. But their supercomputer is a tough program to fight against, which uses Unicron's attacks and responds to their moves incredibly fast. Prima loses his temper, crying out that he must have a weakness and this cannot be so difficult. Leech Maximo tries to make a new game plan, with them working as a team and using code words for combo attacks. 13, of course, is the cheerleader of the group, who is never down and tries to raise their spirits. He tells them that Unicron has been left unbothered for a long time and will not be at his best, and he is used to fighting Primus, not a bunch of smaller opponents. They go into another simulation, looking inside Unicron's body and discussing where they will strike to knock out his systems. Some, like the warriors, will distract Unicron outside, while those like the free agents will be inside, damaging Unicron. The primes suddenly wonder what will happen if they fail, but chippy little 13 says, "Right, so how do we win?" and starts asking more about the simulation to distract them. There is an icon put next to Unicron's spark, which is 13. Alchemist explains that 13's spark is the closest in waveform to Primus's, which is the furthest from Unicron's. They believe that putting 13 next to it will cause Unicron's spark chamber to close to protect itself from a perceived lethal threat, and that will put Unicron into hibernation mode until the threat is gone. But if they lock that part of Unicron into an infinite loop, then he won't be able to recognize the passage of time and wake up. If being that close also shuts down 13's spark, Quintus hopes he can jolt him out of it with the Ember Stone. Maximo thinks the whole plan is suicidal, but 13 doesn't mind. After this is settled, the primes construct an energy matrix that will serve as a memory core. In case they do not return from battle, someone after them can see their experiences. This will one day be called the Matrix of Leadership, although it does not yet have that name. Once this is done, they brainstorm some more but cannot come up with any better plan. Prima gathers them together and announces it is time. They gather their weapons, all previous disputes forgotten as they feel tight brotherhood. In their groups, they have Vector Prime open the portal to Unicron's position. Through it, they can see the monster for the first time as he devours a moon. And then Solus charges through with the free agents behind her. Everyone pours through at a scheduled time, rushing across the space gate to Unicron. He turns, the first sign of combat. And then Alpha Trion describes the scene as, "We came out into hell." The first wave of dark energon emanating off Unicron's body hits them, and no training could have prepared them for that feeling. The shock nearly destroys their resolve, but Megatronus powers on and shoots at Unicron's eyes. He inspires them to keep attacking. Primus swings the Starsaber at Unicron's shoulder, and Onyx leaps onto Unicron's neck, shredding it with claws and teeth. This causes Unicron to snatch hold of Onyx, but no one can wait to see what happens to him. Prima, Megatronus, and 13 assault Unicron's eyes to buy everyone time to get into position for Vector Prime's portals, and to have made it so far impresses Alpha Trion, simply because they were still alive. Solus is the first sent through a portal into Unicron's body just before he releases a wave of black missiles. Everyone else survives the missiles from all their dodging practice, jetting around and firing at Unicron. Onyx is floating, injured, and Prima is with him to protect him. Unicron roars at them that he's grown tired of them and they shall die, but then Solus damages something inside him. Alpha Trion is sent through a portal next, but into a cramped space that instantly breaks his foot. And the moment one gets inside Unicron, the sheer amount of dark energon begins to mess with them. The negativity of Unicron becomes Alpha Trion's thoughts, as he believes they were foolish to try to stop him, that they might as well just let everything find peace in the silent eternity of death. Alpha Trion moves from muscle memory, but his hands falter as he is about to disable Unicron's weapons. He wonders, what is the point of all this? But then 13's voice comes across the comm link to empower everyone in their darkest hour. His voice is like a spear of light, soothing all hopelessness with his simple phrase, "All are one." Alpha Trion decides that he can act, that Unicron is not the master of the universe or his fate. He disables his arm nerve and attaches a shocking instrument to his nervous system. Unicron staggers, but elsewhere, everyone else is damaging him. Without 13 addressing them all, they would have lost, but because of him, they were able to beat the Unicron that was inside them. And that had been torment, for he had filled their minds with visions of failure and despair, but Micronus cried out that as long as they were together, hell wasn't such a bad place to be. Outside Unicron's body, everyone is terribly injured by a shockwave. Prima convulses and drops the Starsaber, but the saboteurs inside distract Unicron from finishing the warriors. Leech Maximo also starts to converse with Unicron, annoying the hell out of him with his drawl and words. Unicron starts stabbing his own neck, just trying to reach Maximo and crush him. Spinning out of control, Megatronus accidentally shoots Vector Prime with the Requiem blaster, but Amalgamus and 13 rush over to hastily patch him up. Without Vector Prime, they cannot teleport 13 inside and win the battle. Meanwhile, Unicron advances upon helpless Prima and he snatches Onyx in one hand again. Megatronus tries to get his balance and shoot Unicron again, this time blasting through Unicron's left arm and severing it at the elbow. To help Vector have the strength for one last portal, Amalgamus juices him up with some of his spark energy. When the portal is opened, Amalgamus shoves 13 through. Leech Maximo is heavily poisoned and slurring his words, and Vector tries to put the words on a loop so he can rest. Unicron meanwhile bites Prima and spits him out just as 13 reaches Unicron's spark. At that point, the comm on 13's end goes quiet and Unicron clutches his chest. Then he stops to continue, only for him to slowly lose control of his functions. The dark energon field shuts down and Unicron outforms into a planetoid shape. His lights dim, and then Unicron is still. The Primes all regroup slowly, returning to Cybertron with their injuries, and Vector fading in and out of consciousness. Against the odds, they all survived, but they cannot forget how quickly they had succumbed to the dark thoughts of Unicron. From then on out, they were changed and disappointed in themselves. They were confused and they had lost their innocence. Nothing was going to be the same between them again. The next chapter is the War of the Primes, how they defied themselves, and what made Megatronus become the Fallen.